Welcome to DSC's Campfires with Larry Weishuhn, a unique blend of hunting, fishing, wildlife conservation, and the outdoor lifestyle. DSC's Campfires is brought to you by DSC, Conservation, Education, and Advocacy. Hornady, accurate, deadly, dependable. Taurus, award-winning revolvers and pistols. Stealth Vision, high-tech, precision-driven equipment for today's modern hunter. Red 55 Winery, signature wines from Emmy Award-winning country artist Miranda Lambert, owned by Rick and Beverly Lambert. And the Choctaw Hunting Lodge, home of some of the finest hunting in North America. Now, here's Larry.
The very happiest of New Year's to you. Gosh almighty, it's hard to believe it's already 2026. 25 went by pretty quickly, but it was an absolutely fantastic year in so many different ways. For me personally, I got to hunt some great places, spend time with some absolutely fantastic people, old friends and new friends, and we're looking forward to the same here in 2026. We'll recap some of the hunts that I did back in November and December of 2025 in future episodes, particularly about the little Carmen mountain whitetail deer that I hunted, and I kind of touched on some things with Craig Archer and Kyle Foley that I did up in the Texas lower Panhandle. As the year came to a close, I got to spend a little time on the cotton ranch known as Becker Bottoms there in northeast Texas. Was there with David and Edgar Cotton and another dear friend of mine, Mr. Rick Lambert. We'll have some things coming up with Rick here before too very long. Interestingly, the Cotton family and David and Edgar and Rick are very much into Savage Model 99's old lever action, and had an opportunity to spend some time with those guys the last few days of the year. Actually brought the Model 99 that I shot my first mule deer with. It was a 300 Savage built in about the 1920s, I believe, if I remember correctly. Recently, I've been looking for another one or two, and I've found some, and we'll talk about those in future episodes as well, too. Got a lot of things coming up here very quickly. Of course, in January, I have got a Coues Deer Hunt down on the Durangueño Ranch in way down south in Durango, Mexico. It's at the very lower end of the Sierra Madres. Fabulous place. Hunted there last year or in 2025. Shot a really nice buck that had broken tines on one side, and I'm now waiting that arrival of that particular mount from Double Nickel Taxidermy. Those guys do a fantastic job, and we had some photographs of that deer before he broke off. Everything seemingly on his right side, outside of his brow tine and main beam, and somewhere down in the not too distant future, hopefully we'll be able to show you those. Looking forward to that hunt in particular, hunting with Terry Anderson this time. Terry and I go back as friends for several years through Greg Simons and the companies that they're involved in, and really looking forward to spending some time there with him. We'll recap a little bit of some other stuff as well, too. Going back to 2025, got to spend time with Jeff Johnson and Fred Eichler on property down south of Marfa, actually southwest of Marfa, down in the Shinati Mountains. Was able to do a podcast with both those guys. For Jeff, we did a podcast that was done for the NRA that Jeff now does, and I'll air it a little bit later on after it's been aired on the NRA show. And then also Fred Eichler and I got a chance to sit down for a little bit and visit as well, and that's one of the upcoming episodes as well too. That too was done for the NRA, but graciously they have agreed to allow me to rebroadcast those after they've appeared on the NRA or listened to on the NRA show, and really looking forward to you guys listening to that Fred's been kind of a hero of mine for a long time. Not kind of, he has. The things he's done with a longbow, many of us wish we could do with a rifle. So really kind of truly enjoyed the time I got to spend with him when we were down there hunting. He was able to take an absolute fantastic mule deer, as was, oh my gosh, the two deer that Jeff and Fred took were out of this world good, and as I mentioned, I was able to take a little Carmen Mountain Whitetail. Now, those hunts of the Carmen Mountain Whitetail you'll be able to see, and probably in January and February on our Sportsman's Life TV show. If you don't see them there, I'm doing an article about that particular hunt for Sporting Classics magazine, which will appear a little bit later on in the year, and those little deer just absolutely fascinate me, and I want to do pretty much an entire segment on those a little bit later on as we get into the year, just to kind of remind people when maybe there's not a whole lot of hunting going on that, at least not here in the States, outside of maybe bear and some other things, that I think those will be a good time to air some of the things that we did there with the little Carmen Mountain Whitetail. Absolutely great species. Look forward to trying to hunt those again, maybe again in the future. But in January, I am getting ready to, and I know I'm bouncing back and forth here quite a bit. As I mentioned, I'm going down to the El Durangueño, which is an unbelievable ranch down south. If you'd like some more information, we'll do a specific podcast about it. I'll be doing also a Sporting Classics magazine article, and two, we'll be doing a show about that hunt on A Sportsman's Life that you can see on Carbon TV or our YouTube channel of that same name. Now, if you have problems finding those things, you can go to my website, which is larryweishuhn.net, and I'll have a bunch of blogs there as well, too, about some of those hunts, including the little Carmen Mountain Whitetail and some things about that particular hunt, but also the hunt that I did with Craig and Kyle there in the lower Texas Panhandle. One of the great events that we've got coming up here very shortly is in February, the 6th, 7th, and 8th we'll be back in Atlanta for one more year for the DSC convention. Now, really looking forward to that one this year because there's all kinds of really great things that we'll be doing there. And with that said, too, I want to remind folks that I had an opportunity to be on Michael Waddell's podcast that he's doing now. Michael and I, if you don't know it, go back to many, many years ago when he first really was kind of a grown kid. We were talking about it, and he said, yeah, about time I started to shave. You and I got to start doing things together. And over the years, Michael and I have been dear friends, and Michael for years, in his early years rather, was often the cameraman that was assigned to me when I was doing stuff with Bill Jordan and David Blanton for Realtree, and got to share the stage with him a time or two on a few things years and years ago as well, too. So look forward to, we'll probably try to talk him into letting me air that episode maybe in audio only. It'll be audio and visual on his podcast, but maybe just a little bit of audio from that podcast as well too that I did with Michael. And if we can't do it that way, then I'll just sit down and he and I may just do a separate one as well too. We're just he and I talking about some of the old times and some of his favorite hunts and those kind of things. So got that coming up in the future. A lot of good hunting, as I mentioned, coming up before the end of February gets here, and be spending some time on the Cotton Ranch. There, I know I said Becker Bottoms, but that's Michael's place. This is down at Becker Bottoms, so it's somewhat similar, but we'll talk a little bit about that. I've got an episode planned to talk about some of the things that's going on there. And of course, Mr. Edgar Cotton's been hunting all of his life. Now, Mr. Edgar just turned 85 years young and is still hunting really hard. He was able to take a really nice black bear, as we've talked about, in October of 25, and then went to the properties that they've been hunting for years up there in Colorado and shot a really good elk. So one of the things I want to visit with him about, and we'll talk about this in a future episode, is what he's seen, in the years. I know he started hunting elk probably back in the 1970s, which is about the time that I started doing it as well too. So we really want to spend a little time visiting with him about that as well. So you got so many great things coming up. As I mentioned, the DSC convention. Now that is a special thing coming up February 6th, 7th, and 8th at the World Congress Center in Atlanta, Georgia. Now, we're going to be a little bit closer to the hotel than we were last year, and hoping and praying that we won't have the same weather that we did when we were there in 25, because basically it was not as well attended as we hoped because, my gosh, nobody could get there. The airport was shut down. All the roads leading into Atlanta were shut down, and it was questionable whether you could even get into Atlanta. For years, I've been visiting with friends down in the Southeast, and I said, okay, guys, when you come into the DSC show? And they go, well, whenever y'all bring it our way. So when we announced that it was going to be in the Atlanta World Congress Center, I called those guys and says, okay, you sorry so-and-sos, you've been promising me you're coming, DSC, and you haven't ever done it. And I said, now we're going to be in Atlanta. You had better be there. Well, as it worked out, a lot of those guys couldn't even get out of their driveway, and if they got out of their driveway, they couldn't go anywhere at all. So during that time the show was going on, I got all kinds of phone calls, emails, texts, all those kind of things saying, well, I just can't get there. The roads are so bad. They've closed the roads down. We understand they're talking about shutting down the city of Atlanta, and it was just one of those artifacts in the weather. So with having it in February this year, and we're going to have a 3-day show, I really look forward to seeing so many of y'all out there, especially if you're from anywhere in that southeastern part of the U.S. It's not really that hard to get to the World Congress Center, and it's a great facility once you're there. So really look forward to seeing you there. I'm going to be emceeing the Life Member Breakfast this year. We're going to be there for that, and also I've been asked to present the Educator of the Year Award, our DSC Foundation Educator of the Year Award, to Dr. Mike Arnold, who is a dear friend and hunting partner and confidant, and hardly a week goes by that we don't visit several times, either by phone or by email or text, and it just one of the true great individuals there is loves the outdoors like you and I do, and so they couldn't have chosen a better individual as far as I'm concerned. But beyond all that, there are going to be a whole lot of exhibits there from all over the world, a lot of great products, the best guns, optics, hunting equipment that can be found anywhere, but also the best outfitters for both hunting, fishing, and any kind of outdoor excursion. And I can say that with confidence because everybody that's there has a booth at that show has been extremely well vetted. They're not somebody that just kind of goes, well, I want to be an outfitter. These guys are true professionals, regardless whether it has to do with hunting and fishing. And the same thing with hunting products. There's a hunting product in there. I can assure you there have been members of the DSC membership that have utilized those products. And if they hadn't, those guys who produce those would not be there. Well, there I'm going to try to spend a little time in the Hornady booth, but also in the Stealth Vision booth. And that's going to be, if you get a chance, run by and see those guys. They've got some great things already on the shelves, if you will. And they're working on a couple other projects as well, too, that I think are going to be extremely well received by those of us who love to hunt and love to shoot. So if you get a chance, run by and see their booth when you're there. And if you can't do that, you can always go to their website, which is stealthvision.com, to learn a little bit more. And of course, with a Hornady bunch, good gosh, they just don't, ammo just doesn't come any better than Hornady, and whether it's you're just doing your own hand loading or reloading with their bullets and their reloading equipment, or you do like I do. I used to do a lot of hand loading or reloading, but these days simply just don't have time. And I'll tell you what, the commercial ammo that they put out is just it's second to none. I don't know that you can even do better if you do your own hand loading or reloading to try to match what those guys have done and what they do. Got a lot of things, as I mentioned, coming up. We've got some special projects that we're going to do through this particular podcast, and working on getting it on Patreon. We'll be doing that before too very long, and we'll try to have a bunch of extra content there, having to do with hunts, having to do with tips, being able to have a direct communication with me, and we'll be making that announcement probably sometime right after the first of the year. We're still trying to put together a little bit more extra content that we can offer those folks, but all things are pretty much in place to launch on Patreon sometime in January or February at the very latest. So look forward to having some of you guys there as well, too. And again, that'll give you a little bit more access to some of the stuff I do and some of the things I've done. And like I said, we're going to do some giveaways and things like that on products that I'm involved with, and particularly some of the books that I've written. And who knows, no telling what all that might be available there as well, too. But all those great things coming up in 2026, and I look forward to seeing you there at the DSC convention in Atlanta on the 6th, 7th, and 8th of February, and hopefully I'll have a chance to sit down and I can answer some questions that you might have. But I know you, like me, are going to be spending a fair amount of time on the floor trying to visit with different outfitters to set up hunts either for the rest of 2026 or maybe even into 2027 and 28. A lot of good things coming up. Got some hunts coming up, as I mentioned earlier, still in Mexico, and be going after muntjac and the little Chinese water deer here before too very long in England. And looks like we're going to be doing our Three Nations roe deer hunt a little bit later on in the spring as well, too. So got all those hunts coming up that I'm doing. I'd love to hear about some of the hunts that you have planned or questions that you have. Like I said, once we get set up on Patreon, you'll be able to reach me through there very easily. But in the meantime, if you have a question or so, please just go to my Facebook and send me a direct message or personal message there, and I'll do my best to respond to you. If you don't hear a response from me right away, it's simply because I'm in an area where there is no cell reception or phone service, and that happens occasionally. I'd very honestly and truthfully really look forward to those times when sometimes there is very little communication and I can just turn the phone off or use it to record a few things and maybe take a few photographs and use it for those things that in the days when I was growing up, a phone was never intended to be used for. So please get in touch with me. I'd love to hear what you like, what you don't like. If there's something you'd like to hear about or an individual you'd like to hear us interview, I'll do my best to make that happen. And with all that said, I know you've got some great things coming up in the outdoors in 2026, and just want to wish you and your family and your extended family the best of everything for 2026 and actually even beyond. So let's make 2026 our best year yet. Look forward to seeing you right back here next week, and this being a bonus edition the next week, right here around our DSC campfire.
DSC's Campfires with Larry Weishuhn has also been brought to you by The Crown Bar in LaGrange, Texas, the Texas Wildlife Association, Double Nickel Taxidermy, and Burnham Brothers Game Calls.